welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for stopping by. If you have never been here before, welcome. Be sure to click that subscribe button and that notification bell to get all notifications. A little bit about me, this channel is geared towards those of you who are going through chemo, those who want to know about chemo, or those who are just genuinely interested in about this topic. If you do not follow me on Instagram, be sure to do so. And a couple days ago, I had asked you guys to hit me with your chemo questions because I wanted to do a Q&A today, and that's what this is all about. Just a little disclaimer, I am not a health professional by any means. This is just my personal experiences, what I have gone through, and my personal opinions, and I just want to share them with you. So let's get going. Okay, so we're going to get a little bit uncomfortable. Nothing too crazy, but a lot of these questions were just great questions. Some I have never answered before, so I just want to be very vulnerable with you guys and share with you what those questions were and just be as honest and transparent with you as possible. And the first question was, how long did each session take? So my infusion was about a little under 3 hours, and that is including pre-meds. So I would get 30 minutes of pre-meds prior to my infusion, and then infusion would start. The next question was, did chemo hurt? It did not. I was very nervous going there the very first time, just thinking how bad it was gonna hurt and things like that. It did not hurt at all. It really didn't feel a whole lot. The next question is, how long did it take you to feel bad? Now they pump you up full of pre-meds to basically take away the nausea. So basically you can just, as soon as you get home, that's when things can kind of take a turn. Now this is just me, this is my personal, like what happened to me was at the night of, I would have chemo during the day and I would get home a little bit before dinner time. And then right before bedtime, I did start to feel a little icky, nothing crazy. Now I was on steroids, so the first few nights I could not sleep. I was just kind of all jacked up on steroids. So I couldn't sleep much, but generally the next day, the next morning is really when I started to feel kind of gross, just like blah. That's really when it would start. And then 2 days later is really when I could feel all of the different symptoms. The next question ties in with the other one. And the question was, how long was I sick for? I was sick generally about 5 days total. The next question is actually, I love this question. I really didn't know what this was either, but the next question is, what is a port? And you can see my scar right here. I won't show you the whole thing. It might creep people out, but a port is a small, about the size of a quarter, and it goes right underneath your skin. It's either metal or plastic. And then that is what they give you the chemo through. They can also get your blood drawn through there too. The next question is, what was my worst side effect? I shared this one on my previous video, is what you may not expect during chemo. And it's definitely the constipation. That was the worst side effect ever. I can't even explain it, what it was like. It was literally the worst. How much did it cost? Now, we have pretty decent insurance, but I had always wondered what the cost of something like this would be. And I actually looked on our statements and I did a little research, and it was about $100,000, give or take. Obviously, we did not pay for all of that. We did have a copay, but with the doctor's appointments and with everything else, about $100,000. Just to be in infusion for 3 hours cost a little over between $6,000 and $7,000 per session. So it's a lot. Okay, here's the next question. This one, it ties into my one about the port, and they had asked if accessing my port was painful. So what this means is basically it gets everything ready, everything prepped for chemo and blood draw. That was not painful at all. Now, getting my actual port put in, that was very, very painful. And I was very sore for a few days. It was very weird to have this object into your skin, and it was, it felt heavy. things like that, but actually having it accessed prior to chemo each time did not hurt whatsoever. The next question is, could you have sex during chemo? Yes, you could. Now, the only thing was the doctors just told us that we had to be careful a few days afterwards. Not like I wanted to, but we just had to be protected a few days after, but after that, everything was fine. We could just go back to our normal sex life. It was no big deal. Next question is, how long did it take for you to feel back to your normal self? This one, I felt pretty good afterwards. My very last one, after like the initial sickness wore off, I felt really good. Now looking back at pictures, I can see myself, I was still very tired. I still had very dry skin. I had horribly dry skin during chemo. I just looked still a little sick, probably a few months after. So I want to say when I really started to look and feel good was about 3 months post chemo. That's really when everything started to go back to normal. The next question is a good one. They had asked, was it as bad as you expected? No. Now this is, again, just my personal experience. Everyone is different. I really didn't know what to expect. I have just heard stories on how awful it was, and yes, I never want to go through that again, but it also was not as awful as I had anticipated. I never vomited. I did get nauseous once in a while, but it was never as bad as I had expected, and I know I had it a lot better than others as well. Were you insecure when you lost your hair? No, actually I did a Facebook Live on this. My husband shaved my head. I started losing my hair about a week after my first chemo, and it really started to fall out in clumps right after my second chemo. So about 2.5 weeks after I had started chemo, it really started to fall out a lot. So my husband shaved it. I loved my hair before chemo. I absolutely loved it. I thought I would react differently when my husband shaved it, but I actually felt so amazing after he had shaved it. It was just such a good feeling. I had wigs that I had purchased and stuff, but I rarely wore them. I really liked being bald. I really embraced being bald for the longest time, and I loved it. I loved being bald, actually. Really, there were only a few times where I was out in public and I didn't have a hat on or anything, and I know I got some looks. Those times I thought to myself, maybe I should have a hat on. I don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable. And then I thought, no, I will rock this bald head proudly. The next question is, what did a typical day look like for chemo? A typical day would be getting my daughter off to school, heading to University of Michigan. It takes a little over an hour to get there, and then I had to be there 2 hours prior to my actual infusion appointment. So I had to get there 2 hours prior, get my blood drawn to make sure my blood was fine, make sure my white blood count was okay, and then I would have to wait an hour to see my doctor. Once I got the approval with my doctor to make sure I was healthy enough to go through chemo, I would head into chemo an hour later. So chemo then would last about 3 hours. So as soon as that's done, I would be done. And so I would be there about 5 to 6 hours. Now, my chemo was not as long as some. Some people have chemo for 15 minutes. Some people have chemo for 12 hours. Sometimes people have chemo for days where they have to take it home with them. I really learned to, as weird as this sounds, I really learned to enjoy infusion and being there because I was very present with whoever I was with that time. I would take my dad, I took my mom, I took my mother-in-law, I took my best friend, took my husband several times, and you know, I was present with them, and we got to order food like it was room service. We got pampered, you know, with blankets and things like that. So I really learned to enjoy it and really live in that moment. Even though it's really bad circumstances, I just chose to look at it a different light and really get to spend time with those people. And I really developed really good relationships around me with people who are also going through chemo, one family in particular, and just getting to know them because they're pretty much on the same routine as you are. It is one big room. Normally you don't get your own room unless you're gonna be there for a very long time, but I had always had I was in one big room with a dozen other people, so you could get up and walk around and spend time with other people around you. The next question is, what symptoms did you have and what cancer did you have? I had Hodgkin's lymphoma. The doctor said my tumor was there for about 5 months. The tumor was actually in between my heart and my lungs. So I actually only had one symptom. If you are friends with me, you know exactly what that is. I had a shortness of breath and I thought it was an anxiety attack. It was not. And I went to the ER and they did a CAT scan and found that tumor in between my heart and my lungs. The next question is, how often did you have to go through chemo? I had to go every other Wednesday for 6 months, so a total of 12 times. The next question is, could you drive to and from chemo by yourself? And the answer is yes, I could. I never did because I always took someone with me, but I could drive there and back if I wanted to, but I never did. The next question is, did you lose all of your hair? Yes, all of my hair. It was fantastic. Except, fun fact, nose hair is very important. I never knew how important it was until I didn't have any and my nose would run all the time. But yes, I lost everything. And the last question is, did your hair texture change when it came back? Yes. My hair used to be very straight, very coarse, and I could never really curl it. I could curl it, but it never held a curl. Now my hair is actually very curly, very tight curls, even more coarse than it was. So annoying. I just straighten it now and blow dry it. If I just let it go, it's a disgusting mess. That is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for all of your questions. If you do have another question, leave them in the comments below or follow me on Instagram at RobinMThorne, and I will be sure to answer all of your questions that you do have that did not make this video. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, and next Wednesday is Christmas, so I will be sure to post my video on Thursday.